My girlfriend is the queen of the music scene. She just won her second Golden Melody Award. She once told me that when she finally made it big, she would reveal our relationship immediately. But what I never expected was that after all that waiting, what I got instead was a trending headline about her returning to a hotel late at night with another man. I forced down my anger and rushed to her fan meeting, wanting to confront her face to face and get a clear answer. But to my shock, she not only pretended she didn't know me, she even called security to have me thrown out. And so, the next day, I was the one trending. The headline read, Song Queen Willow harassed by deranged obsessive fan. Chapter 1. My girlfriend is the queen of the music scene. She just won her second Golden Melody Award. But right now, staring at my phone screen, I can feel the blood rushing to my head in waves. That photo on the screen has already been reposted tens of thousands of times. The headline looks perfectly crafted. Breaking. Rising music queen Willow returns to a hotel late at night with top idol Makoto. Suspected romance exposed. The picture is a little blurry, but you can clearly recognize Willow. She's wearing the coat I gave her when I took her to the airport. The man beside her is Makoto, the pretty boy actor who blew up from a historical drama. They walked into an imposing set of doors one after the other. The paparazzi caption says it's one of the most expensive hotels in the city. Damn. My fingers tremble as I open my contacts and find the name I set on speed dial, Princess Wiwi. She changed that name herself years ago while holding my phone. I never changed it back. The phone rings for a long time. Then it switches to a busy tone. No answer. I call again. Still no answer. The third time, it goes straight to, the user you have dialed is powered off. Powered off. Willow never turns off her phone. She's afraid of missing any work call. Afraid her parents might need her and can't reach her. Afraid I won't be able to reach her. That's what she told me herself. And now she's turned it off. My mind is a complete mess. Is that photo real or photoshopped? If it's real, why was she there? Work. What kind of work requires meeting at a hotel in the middle of the night? Yesterday, when we were on the phone, she told me she was pulling an all-nighter in the recording studio, exhausted, and that she missed me. Did the recording studio move to a hotel? I can't sit still. I pace around the apartment. We rented this place together. It's small, but she said anywhere with me feels warm. Right now, it feels like an ice cellar. Her things are everywhere. The cartoon throw pillow she likes on the couch, half a bag of snacks on the coffee table, a row of high heels she lined up neatly in the corner. No, I need answers. I have to hear it from her mouth. I check her schedule. I have a copy saved on my phone. This afternoon, she has a small fan meet and greet in the city. Fine, I'll wait for her there. I'll ask her face to face. I grab a jacket and head out, driving way too fast, almost running red lights several times. When I arrive at the mall hosting the event, it's already packed. A sea of young girls holding Willow's glowing name signs, chattering excitedly, faces lit up with anticipation. I look at them and feel something heavy clogging my chest. The Willow they see is a dazzling superstar on stage. The Willow I know is the girl who curls up on the couch in pajamas, hair messy, begging me to cook for her. I squeeze into the crowd. It smells awful, perfume mixed with sweat. Someone shoves me. I shove back impatiently. Security up front shouts loudly, telling everyone to line up. I'm fairly tall, but with this many people, I still have to stand on my toes. Even then, I can only see a corner of the temporary stage in the distance. Two girls beside me are chatting, their sharp voices drilling into my ears. Hey, did you see the trending topic about Willow and Makoto? It's definitely fake, just publicity hype. Her new drama is probably about to air, but the photo looks pretty clear. Oh come on, the studio hasn't responded. That means it's fake. There's no way our Willow would go for that kind of pretty boy. Publicity hype. Yeah, for the past 5 years, that's the word I've heard the most. At the beginning, she collaborated with a male singer and rumors started spreading. She came home, clung to my arm, and swayed it, saying, "Hubby, don't believe that stuff. The company arranged it, it's for publicity." Later, she was photographed having dinner with a male actor from the same production. She said, "The paparazzi just made it up. We're just normal friends, discussing the script." Every time, I believed her. I said, "It's fine, I understand. Just wait until you're firmly established." Firmly established? She's stable enough now, isn't she? She's already won multiple trophies. How much more stable does she need to be? I lower my head and look at my wrist. There's a braided bracelet on it, old. The color faded. She made it for me with leftover yarn when she first joined that idol survival show. She made a matching one for herself. She said, "Hubby, look, it's a couple's bracelet. When I become famous, we'll wear them every day and show off our love." When she said that, her eyes sparkled like they were filled with stars. Now those damn stars might have fallen straight into a hotel room. Chapter 2. The line inches forward little by little. I don't know how long it takes, but eventually I'm almost there. Now I can clearly see the person on the stage. She's sitting there in a glittering dress, heavy makeup on her face. Beautiful, undeniably beautiful, but she feels so far away from me. She smiles at the fans in front of her, a perfectly rehearsed smile, showing exactly 8 teeth. It looks especially fake to me. She never used to smile at me like that. When she smiled at me, she would squint her eyes, laugh without caring how she looked, sometimes even laugh so hard a little snot bubble came out. 3 people ahead of me. 2, 1. Finally, it's my turn. I walk up to the stage. A table separates us. I stand right in front of her. She can see me clearly. The instant she lifts her eyes and meets mine, her smile freezes just for a split second, and something flashes through her eyes. Panic. No doubt about it. Panic. It lasts less than half a second before she pastes that professional smile back onto her face. But I saw it. My heart keeps sinking all the way down. She looks at me. Her voice is sweet, but there's an obvious distance in it, deliberate and cold. Hello there. Are you here for an autograph? The words pierce my ears like needles. A fan. An autograph. I'm your damn boyfriend. 5 years. 5 years together. And now you're asking me if I'm here for an autograph. I say nothing. I just stare at her. I want to see something else in her eyes, even a trace of guilt, even the slightest hint of explanation. There's nothing. She avoids my gaze and lowers her head, picking up her pen. She grabs one of her promotional photos from the side and begins signing it. Her hand seems a little unsteady. As she signs, she keeps talking nonstop, as if she's afraid I might say something out loud. It's so hot today. Thank you for waiting in line. Thank you for supporting me. Have you listened to the new song? Do you like it? Make sure you come to the next concert too. She's speaking a little too fast, a little flustered. Whenever she used to feel guilty or nervous, she talked more than usual. I know her too well, and the more she does this, the colder my heart becomes. What is she afraid of? Afraid I'll expose her right here in front of everyone. Afraid I'll ruin her star image. In her eyes, am I just an outsider now? Even a threat? My head buzzes. A memory from years ago flashes in my mind. Back then, she wasn't famous yet. We were crammed into a basement less than 10 square meters, drafty in winter, suffocating in summer. She leaned against my shoulder, holding her guitar, and said, "Hubby, when I become famous, I'll announce you immediately. I won't do those messy publicity scandals with other people. So pointless. I'll let everyone know I have a husband. My husband is you, the best George in the world." The way she said that, she was so serious, so sincere. Later, she slowly became famous, busier. We saw each other less. I brought up going public a few times. She would wrap her arms around my neck and act cute. Just wait a little longer. Hubby, it's a critical period right now. The company won't allow it. Once I'm more stable. Okay, just wait a bit more. That bit more turned into 3 years. And what did I get? A trending headline of her returning to a hotel late at night with another man. A phone that was powered off. And now this. Are you here for an autograph? 3 years. I waited like an idiot for 3 years. My heart finally goes completely cold, like someone poured a bucket of ice water over it, extinguishing the last trace of warmth. She finishes signing and hands the photo to me. That same professional fake smile on her face. Here you go. Thank you for your support. I look at the glossy card with her beautiful face printed on it. Then I look at her. I reach out and take the photo. Then, with both hands, I grip the edges and slowly, little by little, tear it in half. The torn edge exposes white, jagged fibers. I don't stop. I stack the 2 halves together and tear them again and again, until it becomes a handful of scraps too small to hold. The paper fragments fall from my hands and scatter across the floor. For a split second, everything goes silent. Then comes a collective gasp. Whispers. Willow's face turns pale instantly. Her eyes widen, staring at me in disbelief. I still say nothing. I glance at her wrist. Smooth, fair, empty. The matching braided bracelet she once wore with me, long gone. I turn around without looking at her again. I push past the curious onlookers behind me and squeeze through the crowd toward the exit. Behind me, I hear the sudden scrape of her chair as she stands up, and her manager's low, urgent whisper. "Willow, what are you doing? Sit down. Think about the impact." I hear it all, but I don't stop walking. I keep going forward, leaving behind the noise, the lights, and her. Outside, the sunlight is blinding. I squint, feeling a little dizzy. 5 years. 5 years of love. Turns out it can shatter just as easily as a sheet of paper. Chapter 3. I went back to the small apartment we shared. When I pushed the door open, the place was pitch dark and frighteningly quiet. I didn't turn on the lights. I walked straight to the couch and threw myself down onto it. The leather felt cold and stiff against my back. My mind was empty. The only thing left replaying was Willow's face at the fan meeting. And that sentence. "Are you here for an autograph?" I don't know how long I lay there. Maybe a few minutes, maybe an hour. Suddenly I stood up and flipped on the living room lights. The harsh white glare stabbed my eyes. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there. I rushed into the bedroom and yanked open the wardrobe. There were only a few pieces of clothing that were mine, some t-shirts and jeans. The rest, dresses, coats, handbags, all belonged to Willow. I used to think the closet felt nice and full, like a home filled with warmth. Now it just made my chest feel tight. I dragged out the biggest suitcase we had and laid it open on the floor. Then I stood in front of the wardrobe and, without even looking carefully, started pulling down Willow's clothes, hangers and all, in one sweeping motion. Dresses hit the floor, sweaters piled into a heap, hangers clattered against each other, the sharp noise echoing in the silent apartment. One hanger snagged a silk blouse. Riot. A tear split down the fabric. I didn't even pause. Who cares anymore? In no time, her half of the closet was empty. I looked at the colorful pile of clothes on the floor. It looked like a mound of trash. I began stuffing everything into the suitcase, cramming it in without care. I had to use my foot to stomp it down just to close the lid. The zipper got stuck halfway. I pulled with all my strength before it finally slid shut. Then I looked around the room. On the nightstand sat a photo frame. It was from her birthday last year. We went to the beach. In the picture, she had jumped onto my back. I was turning my head to smile at her. Both our faces were dotted with seawater. Grinning like idiots, I walked over and picked up the frame. My fingers brushed over her smiling face beneath the glass. Then I flipped it over, popped open the clips on the back, and slid the photo out. On the back of the photo, she had written a line in pen. George and Willow, forever together. Forever? To hell with forever. I went to the desk, pulled open the drawer. It was full of random junk. After rummaging for a bit, I found a pair of scissors, just ordinary office scissors. I carried the photo and the scissors back to the living room and sat down on the cold floor. I laid the photo flat in front of me. Looking at the two of us pressed close together in that image made my chest tighten. I picked up the scissors. The cold metal pressed against my fingers. I found the invisible line between our bodies and placed the tip of the blades there. Then I squeezed the handles shut. Snip. The sound was crisp. The photo split cleanly down the middle. I stared at her half, her bright, dazzling smile, for a few seconds. Then I flicked my arm and tossed it into the trash can beside me. There was still a leftover instant noodle container from yesterday inside. The broth splashed and stained her face in the picture. All I had left in my hand was my half. In the photo, I was grinning like a complete fool. I placed it on the floor. Then I went searching for more. In drawers, in boxes, between the gaps on the bookshelf. I turned the entire place upside down, hunting down every photo of us. Travel pictures, dinner snapshots, silly moments at home, even the distorted, overfiltered selfies she took when she first learned how to use a beauty camera app. 1, 2, 10, 20. I hadn't realized there were this many. They were spread across the floor like a silent film, replaying 5 years of my life as if I were some pathetic idiot. Without saying a word, I picked up the scissors and got to work. Snip, snip, snip. The sound echoed rhythmically through the quiet apartment. Each photo was cut precisely along that invisible line between our bodies. Her half, all of it, went into the trash. My half slowly piled up beside me. The last photo was the most recent one. Last month, she finally had a rare day off. We made hot pot at home. Sweating from the steam, she took a selfie. In the picture, she was holding a slice of beef, trying to shove it into my mouth. I was frowning, trying to dodge it. It looked warm, cozy, happy. I stared at it. My hand trembled slightly. Not from hesitation, from anger. Anger at her, and even more, anger at myself. Chapter 4. I take a deep breath. The blades of the scissors line up with our heads pressed together in the photo. I cut down hard. There. Everything separated. I look at the pile of her smiling faces in the trash can. Then at the stack of my own stupid grins beside me. Then I stand up and walk to the balcony. In the corner sits an old, rusty metal basin we once used for flowers. The flowers died a long time ago. I drag the basin to the center of the balcony. I bring over the stack of photos I kept and toss them into it. More than half a basin full of paper scraps. All of them half of me. I pat down my pockets and find a lighter. I crouch down, pull out one photo, and flick the lighter on. The flame leaps up, licking at the glossy edge. It blackens, curls, then catches. I toss the burning photo into the basin. The fire touches the others and whooshes outward. My smiling face, my happiness, the moments I thought would last forever. They crackle in the flames, then disappear. The smoke stings a little, but I don't move. I just squat there and watch, until the last spark dies out. At the bottom of the basin, all that remains is a pile of black and gray ash. I stand up, my legs are a little numb. Back inside, I pick up my phone. The screen is dark, no notifications. She hasn't called, she hasn't texted. Maybe she's still at the meet and greet, putting on a smile for her fans. Or maybe she's already discussing with her manager how to handle me, the so-called deranged obsessive fan. I unlock my phone and open WeChat. Her chat is still pinned at the top. The name saved is Willow. The last message is from me yesterday afternoon, asking what she wanted for dinner. She never replied. Maybe she was already busy recording songs at that time. I tap her profile picture and enter the chat details. My finger scrolls slowly down the screen until it stops on the red option, delete contact. The app asks, "Are you sure you want to delete contact Willow? This will also delete your chat history." I stare at the line for a few seconds. Then I press confirm. The chat disappears. One less name in the list. But I'm not done. I open my contacts and find her number. Delete. Then TikTok. I unfollow her. Not that I've been on her special following list for a long time. My photo gallery. I open it and select every picture that has her in it. Select all. Delete. Then permanently delete from recently deleted. When I'm finished, I toss the phone onto the couch. It feels like I just finished a massive cleanup, clearing out garbage that had piled up for years. The apartment suddenly feels emptier, quieter. I go back to the living room and collapse onto the couch, closing my eyes. It's really quiet now. This time, it's truly over. From the inside out, everything's been wiped clean. Where do I go next? What do I do? I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I'll just sleep. Maybe when I wake up tomorrow, I'll have an answer. But one thing I do know. I can't stay in this place any longer. Not in a place filled with her shadows. Chapter 5. I woke up very early the next morning. It was barely light outside. I didn't stay in bed. I got up right away and splashed my face with cold water. That cleared my head a little. I looked at myself in the mirror, stubble on my chin, dark circles hanging under my eyes. I looked exhausted. I had to keep moving. If I stopped, I'd start thinking about that crap again. First, I went online and found a moving company. I booked the earliest slot they had. They would come this morning. Then I started packing my own things. I didn't have much. A few t-shirts and jeans. They fit into a hiking backpack easily. What took up space were my guitars, a few of them, and a box full of effect pedals and cables. Those were my lifeline. No matter where I went, they had to go with me. The movers arrived and worked efficiently. In no time, they had loaded my things, mainly the guitar cases and equipment boxes, into the truck. I asked the driver, "Sir, is there a nearby city that's quieter, slower pace of life?" He was a middle-aged guy. He glanced at me through the rearview mirror, probably thinking I was a little strange. Quieter. Huh. Head south. Plenty of old towns down there. Not tourist season yet, so fewer people. I nodded. All right, drive south. When we get there, help me look for a small shop space for rent. A shop? You starting a business? I smiled. Yeah, gonna open a small bar. The idea felt sudden, but also natural. I had to do something. Otherwise I'd lose my mind. After a few hours, we left the steel and concrete jungle behind. The buildings outside the window grew shorter. Even the sky looked bluer. I leaned against the window. Not sleepy, just not in the mood to talk. Around noon, we stopped near a small town. The driver said we could take a look. The town had some reputation, but it wasn't the biggest one nearby, probably less commercialized. I got out with him. There was a river at the town entrance. Not crystal clear, but it flowed gently. Stone-paved streets. Old houses with white walls and black tiles. Some of the plaster was peeling. There weren't many people. A few elderly folks sat outside in the sun. A dog lay at their feet, dozing. We walked along the river for a while and actually found a storefront with a red "For Rent" notice posted on the door. It wasn't big, just a single-room space, slightly off the main street. The windows were dusty. Inside was empty, a thin layer of dust covering the floor. I noted the phone number on the door and called. The landlord was local, spoke with an accent. The rent was much cheaper than in the city. I didn't even bargain. I said I'd take it. The paperwork was surprisingly fast. Small places like this didn't have many formalities. I got the key and pushed open the wooden door. A mix of mildew and dust rushed out. I coughed twice. The movers carried my things in and placed them in the middle of the room. After they left, it was just me, the empty space, and my guitar cases. I stood in the center and looked around. It was old. Spiderwebs in the corners, but I liked it. Yeah, this was it. The next few days, I was so busy I barely had time to think about anything else. I had to make this place look like something. First, I went to the town's only building materials shop and bought the cheapest white paint, mixed it myself, grabbed a long roller, and started painting the walls. I'd never done this before. The paint went on uneven, darker here, lighter there. White splatters got on my clothes and into my hair, but I didn't stop. If one coat didn't work, I did two, until all four walls looked roughly the same shade. Then I went to a second-hand market. The tables and chairs needed to be sturdy. Old was fine. I picked a few thick wooden square tables and a couple of chairs with backrests. The vendor said they'd been retired from a tea house. Cheap enough. I bought them all. I borrowed an electric tricycle and hauled everything back myself, arranging them inside. The bar counter was trickier. I bought wooden planks and nails, measured roughly, and pieced it together on my own. It was crooked in places, but it stood. It wouldn't fall apart. Lighting mattered. I didn't want harsh white bulbs, too glaring. I bought several warm yellow floor lamps and a string of small decorative lights, hanging them somewhat randomly along the walls and by the windows. When I plugged them in, the soft amber glow actually had a certain vibe. The sound system couldn't be cheap. I went into the city and bought a second-hand amplifier and speakers, decent brand, still in good shape. I also picked up a cheap karaoke screen, though I doubted it would get much use. While testing the setup, I played an old song. The sound echoed in the empty room, surprisingly good. The part one put the most thought into was the alcohol. I didn't know much about it. I used to just drink beer. I called a friend who used to work in a bar. He gave me a list: basic spirits, beers, soft drinks. I followed the list when stocking up, slowly filling the empty shelves behind the counter. Looking at all the bottles lined up, it finally felt real. I named the bar Next Life. Didn't think too much about it. It just felt fitting. I found a wooden board and painted the 2 characters on it in black paint myself. The handwriting wasn't great, but it was big and noticeable. After half a month of hard work, the place finally started to look decent. That night, I sat behind the bar I built myself and opened a bottle of beer. Only one small lamp was on. The warm light covered just a small circle around me. Outside, it was very quiet. I could hear the river flowing, and occasionally a dog barking somewhere in the distance. I took out my favorite acoustic guitar and held it in my arms. My fingers pressed against the strings, a little rusty. It had been a long time since I seriously played or sang. I used to play for her. Later, she got busy. I lost the mood. I strummed a few chords casually. In the quiet bar, the sound felt especially loud. I cleared my throat and tried singing a line. My voice was dry, a little hoarse. No audience, just me. I couldn't even say what song it was. I just followed the feeling, playing wherever my mind wandered. Sometimes broken fragments of melody, sometimes aggressive strumming. As I kept playing, the emptiness inside me didn't feel quite as hollow anymore. Chapter 6. After the fan meet and greet ended, Willow was immediately surrounded by her manager and bodyguards, escorted out through a private exit and shoved straight into a car. Her manager's face was livid. The interrogation began before the car even pulled away. "Willow, have you lost your mind? In front of that many people? You were even about to run after him. Do you have any idea how bad this could look? What's going on with that George? Did he threaten you? Should we call the police? I'm telling you, cut him off immediately, completely. The company will handle the PR. You just stick to the story that he's a deranged obsessive fan, a psycho, mentally unstable." Willow slumped in the back seat. Neon lights streaked past outside the window, casting shifting colors over her pale face. She didn't hear a single word. All she could see in her mind were George's eyes, the instant they lost all their light, and his resolute back as he tore the photo apart. "Stop the car," she suddenly screamed, slamming her hand against the driver's seat. "I'm going back. I'm going home, to our place." Her manager snapped sharply. "You are not going back right now. What if paparazzi are staking it out? You're going straight to the hotel. The company needs a unified statement. I have to find him. I need to explain." Willow was nearly hysterical, reaching for the door handle. Her manager panicked, ordering the driver to lock the doors and physically pushing her back into her seat. "Willow, calm down. Going back now will only make things worse. Do you want this to spiral completely out of control?" The shouting and struggling continued the entire ride. In the end, Willow was half forced back to the hotel suite long reserved by the company. Her manager stationed an assistant to watch her around the clock, confiscated her private phone, leaving only her work number, cutting off her direct contact with the outside world. All night, she was dragged into meetings with company executives and the PR team, trying to patch together the deranged fan incident narrative. She tried to resist, tried to tell the truth, but her personal voice was pitifully small against the machinery of corporate interests. She didn't sleep all night. Her tears eventually dried up, leaving behind only numbness and cold. It wasn't until dawn that the noise finally faded. Her manager tossed out one last line, "Think about your future," and left in exhaustion. At last, the suite was empty. Morning light filtered through the glass windows, but it brought no warmth. She sat there blankly for a long time before suddenly jolting upright. George. She had to see George immediately. She didn't bother changing out of her wrinkled dress, didn't care about her haggard face. She grabbed her private phone from the corner of the couch. Her manager must have relaxed, thinking the situation was under control. She rushed out of the hotel and flagged down a taxi. On the way, she kept dialing George's number, still powered off. The sense of dread in her chest grew heavier with each failed call. Finally, she reached the apartment building. She stumbled into the elevator and slammed the floor button. Every second of the ride up felt like a century. When the doors opened, she rushed to the familiar door and pressed her fingerprint against the lock. Thank God, it still recognized her. Beep. The door clicked open. "George," she cried, voice breaking as she ran inside. She was met with silence, and something else, an indescribable emptiness. The living room looked tidy at first glance, but she instantly sensed something was missing. She ran into the bedroom. The closet door was open. George's half was empty. Her clothes lay scattered on the floor. The photo frame from the nightstand was gone. In the study, George's beloved guitars and pedal cases were nowhere to be found. He was really gone. Not just angry, not cooling off. He had packed everything and left. Willow's legs gave out. She slid down the doorframe and collapsed onto the floor as overwhelming despair and panic swallowed her whole. She was too late. Far too late. She looked around the space that suddenly felt foreign and cold. Her eyes drifted to the trash can in the corner of the living room. As if possessed, she crawled over and lifted the lid. Then her breathing stopped. Inside were torn photographs. She recognized them, her promotional photos, artistic shoots, and many pictures of her and George together. But every single photo of the two of them only had her half remaining. George's half had been neatly, cleanly cut away. Her smiling face lay alone in the cold trash can. Some were stained with instant noodle broth, making her expression look painfully ridiculous. He hadn't even bothered to throw them out. Or maybe he had left them deliberately. Left behind these broken images, only her, like a silent, cruel mockery. Willow reached in with trembling hands and scooped up a handful of photo scraps. She looked at the various versions of her smile, on stage, in front of cameras, leaning against George. Once, she had thought those smiles represented happiness, success. Now they felt unbearably ironic. She finally understood what George had felt when he walked away. It wasn't impulsive anger. It was the death of a heart that had endured disappointment for too long. He had taken everything that belonged to him, and left behind everything that represented Willow, severed cleanly from his life, in what used to be their home. These scraps were more devastating than any shouting match, they declared, silently and mercilessly. You, Willow, and everything connected to you, are worth nothing to me now. Only fit to sit in the trash. He left, and in the most final way possible, he told her, "We're over." Chapter 7. Willow took out her phone, about to call George again. Just then, a notification popped up. It was about her fan meet and greet. She scrolled through the screen, her fingertips icy cold. Under the trending topic about the deranged fan, the real-time comments flooded in like a tidal wave. Filthy insults poured across the screen, each sentence stabbing into her eyes like needles. One comment read, "This guy is disgusting. Stalkers deserve to rot. Dox him. Ruin his life." Others wrote, "Willow, don't be afraid. We'll protect you. Did you see the way he tore up that photo? Looks like he escaped from a mental hospital." There were even so-called deep dive posts, attaching blurry photos of George taken years ago outside one of her concerts, analyzing him as if he were a criminal. Obsessive gaze, abnormal behavior. They painted him as a terrifying, relentless lunatic. But that wasn't a lunatic. That was George. The George who silently brought her hot soup when she practiced singing late into the night. The George who waved at her fiercely from the audience when her hands trembled from nerves during her first performance. The George who pulled her out of that basement apartment. Who believed she could shine. Who stayed with her for 5 whole years. And now, because of her moment of foolish panic, because of her manager's interference, because of her pathetic concern for her celebrity image, he had been nailed to a pillar of shame, cursed by tens of thousands of strangers with the most vicious words imaginable. No, it's not like that, she muttered to herself, fingers trembling as she dialed the number she knew by heart. "The user you have dialed is powered off." She sent a message on WeChat. A cold red exclamation mark appeared. Message sent but rejected by the recipient. He had blocked her, completely severed contact. She remembered his eyes at the meet and greet, the way they dimmed in an instant. All light extinguished. She remembered the steady, silent way he tore the photo apart. She remembered his back as he walked away, resolute, without the slightest hesitation. How much had it hurt him? And now, seeing these headlines, what must he think? He would believe she had allowed this, that she had sacrificed him to protect herself, that she had turned him into a target to shield her career. Ah. She let out a broken scream and hurled the phone onto the sofa, burying her hands in her hair as she curled into herself. The fear and regret threatened to tear her apart. She couldn't lose him. She absolutely couldn't. For 5 years, she had grown used to having him in her life. He was her anchor, her home, the only real thing in the chaotic entertainment world around her. And now that reality had been lost by her own hand. No, she had to explain. She had to fix this. She shot to her feet and began pacing the room like a trapped animal. The company would never allow her to speak out. They would insist on silence, on damage control. But this time, she couldn't listen to them. If she waited any longer, George would truly never come back. She rushed to pick up her phone. The screen was cracked but still usable. She opened a new post. Her fingers trembled so badly they barely obeyed her. She needed to speak. Now. Tell the truth. All of it. She began typing. Without polish. Without PR strategy. Just raw emotion spilling out. First, I want to apologize to everyone who cares about me for hiding this for so long. The man at the meet and greet was not a deranged fan, but my boyfriend of 5 years, George. Her tears blurred the screen. She wiped them away forcefully and continued. All previous dating rumors were arranged by the company for publicity. I failed to firmly oppose them. That is my fault. My coldness at the meet and greet came from personal panic. I was afraid he would reveal our relationship on the spot and create an uncontrollable situation. I hurt him in a way that cannot be undone. She wrote as she cried. The sentences were messy, but every word came from her heart. I admit my cowardice and my selfishness. I betrayed the men who supported and accompanied me silently for years. When I had nothing, he stood by my side. After I became famous, I made him wait again and again for the sake of my so-called future. I was even afraid to publicly acknowledge him. I am a complete and utter bastard. I am officially announcing our relationship and will bear all consequences. Direct all criticism at me. Leave him out of it. George, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, answer my call. Or at least give me a sign. Let me know you're okay. After typing the last sentence, she closed her eyes and pressed post. The moment it went live, her phone exploded with notifications, alerts and vibrations flooding in so rapidly it nearly froze. She didn't even look. She switched it to silent mode and tossed it aside. Right now, she only cared about one thing. Would George see it? And if he did, would he forgive her? Chapter 8. Time passed second by second. Each second felt like an entire century. The room was terrifyingly quiet. The only sounds were her own rapid breathing and the pounding of her heart. Did he see it? Was he still angry, refusing to respond? Or had he already given up completely, decided none of it mattered anymore? Horrible thoughts churned through her mind. She couldn't sit still. One moment she stood by the window, staring blankly at the blurred traffic below. The next, she sank back onto the sofa, hugging her knees and burying her face in them. Waiting became the cruelest punishment. She didn't know how much time had passed. Minutes, hours. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her phone again, ignoring the countless missed calls and exploding notifications. She opened her contacts and dialed George's number once more. The user you have dialed is powered off. The same cold automated voice. She refused to accept it. She opened WeChat and tried sending another message. The same red exclamation mark. No response. None. Willow whispered hoarsely. He doesn't want me anymore. George, he really doesn't want me anymore. A wave of despair swallowed her whole. She collapsed onto the sofa as tears poured out uncontrollably. Silent sobs turned into muffled whimpers, which finally broke into helpless, breathless crying. She regretted it. Regretted agreeing to those publicity pairings. Regretted not having the courage to acknowledge him at the meet and greet. Regretted every single time in the past 5 years when he brought up going public and she brushed him off with, just wait a little longer. She had thought her dream was the most important thing. Thought that standing higher would secure their future. But now, the most important person in that future was gone. Her body shook from crying. Nausea surged up from her stomach. She rushed into the bathroom and retched over the toilet. But nothing came out. Looking at the woman in the mirror, eyes swollen, face streaked with tears, she felt ridiculous. Song Queen Willow. A dazzling star. Right now, she looked like someone who had lost everything. No, it couldn't end like this. She had to find him, apologize to him in person, beg for his forgiveness. No matter what he asked for, she would agree, as long as he would come back. Yes, find him. The thought gave her a sliver of strength. She wiped her tears and rushed out of the bathroom, dialing frantically. She called every mutual friend who might know something. Former band members, even distant relatives from George's hometown. Tony, it's me, Willow. Have you heard from George lately? Lisa, do you know where he might have gone? His phone's off. Auntie, this is Willow. Has George contacted home? Every call carried enormous hope. And every answer was the same. No idea. Haven't heard from him. He didn't say anything. Hope ignited, then shattered, over and over again. George had vanished, as if he had erased himself from the world. Willow stood in the center of the room, gripping her overheated phone, overwhelmed by a fear she had never felt before. The world was so big. Where was she supposed to find her George? She slid down against the cold wall and sank to the floor. Her company was undoubtedly in chaos by now. She had already rejected over a dozen calls from her manager. Breach of contract, massive penalties, public backlash. All the things that once terrified her now felt weightless. There was only one thought in her mind. Find him, at any cost. The next few days blurred together. The storm from her public confession slowly began to calm. But the person she wanted to find remained nowhere to be seen. The company's pressure mounted. The astronomical penalty fees loomed over her. She didn't care. She canceled every job she could, searching for any trace of George. Just when she was nearly at the edge of despair, ready to accept that she might have lost him forever, a long-forgotten clue surfaced in her memory. She remembered a night long ago, The two of them curled up on the couch watching an old movie. In the film, the protagonist, disillusioned with life, moved to a small southern town. George had casually said, "Honestly, that doesn't sound so bad. Find a place where nobody knows you. Open a small shop. Live quietly." She had laughed at him back then, teasing him for lacking ambition. South, a small town. Chapter 9. Next life opened. I hung a handwritten sign at the door. In crooked letters it read, "Open, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. No grand opening ceremony. No firecrackers." When the time came, I flipped on the lightbox switch. The two characters lit up. That was it. We were open. For the first few days, no one came. The place was tucked away, unfamiliar. The locals were used to their regular spots. No one bothered to wander this far. I didn't mind. If no one came, I stayed by myself, wiping glasses, rearranging bottles, or just sitting on the small stage with my guitar plugged into the effects pedals, playing alone. About a week later, a few scattered customers finally showed up, mostly tourists who had taken a wrong turn, or curious young locals. "Boss, this place new." A kid in a loud floral shirt poked his head in and asked. "Yeah," I nodded. "What VE you got?" "Beer, liquor, soft drinks, menus on the table," I pointed. He came in, ordered the cheapest beer, and looked around. "Your decor's pretty unique." He probably meant shabby. "Gets the job done," I said, popping the cap and handing it over. He took a sip. "You're alone? No staff?" "Just me." "You sing at night?" "I see there's a stage." "Depends on my mood." He nodded and went back to scrolling his phone. Finished his drink, paid, left. Gradually, a few familiar faces started appearing. Young people from nearby who liked that it was quiet and cheap. Sometimes they'd shout, "Boss, play something. Don't just sit there." If I felt like it, I'd go up and sing a couple songs. No requests. I sang whatever I wanted, mostly old songs nobody cared about, or tunes I hummed together myself. They didn't mind. As long as there was background noise, they'd keep chatting, playing dice, living their own lives. I figured this was how things would go. Quiet, uneventful, like the river outside, flowing slowly. Until that night, there weren't many customers, just two tables. One was the usual group of young locals. The other had two unfamiliar faces. They looked like outsiders, had some professional-looking equipment, even set up a small camera on their table. I was wiping glasses when I overheard fragments of their conversation. "Willow, fan meeting, that guy." My hand paused. I didn't look up. The other one said, "You still following that? Work, man. Gotta keep up with everything. That story blew up a few days ago, didn't it?" Some obsessed fan rushed up and tore up a signed photo. "Oh yeah, vaguely remember." "What happened after?" "What happened? Nothing. Got buried, I guess." But people dug into the guy. Apparently not just a regular fan. Followed tons of concerts. Always front row, shouting confessions. Pretty crazy. My stomach tightened. Front row, shouting confessions. That was years ago. Her first concert. I went. I shouted once. Just once. They dug that up. Seriously, that creepy. That's what the internet says. There are photos. Blurry. But looks like the same guy. I didn't listen anymore. I turned around and pretended to reorganize the bottles behind the bar. My fingers felt cold. That night, after closing, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I turned on my old tablet, connected to the Wi-Fi, opened the search bar. My finger hovered there for a moment. Then I typed, "Willow extremist fan." The page loaded. Headline after headline screamed across the screen. Song Queen Willow harassed by obsessive fan, chaos at meet and greet. Deep dive into Willow's harasser, suspected long-term stalker, disturbing concert behavior. Protect our Willow. Fans call for action against Saying. I clicked a few. They all described how I tore up the signed photo. There was even an old blurry picture, taken outside a concert venue years ago. I was holding a glow stick. The comment sections were worse. "Pervert, go die. Stay away from our Willow. Why hasn't this psycho been locked up? Dox him. Let's see what kind of trash he is." Chapter 10. I kept scrolling. No waves in my heart, just a faint sense of irony. They knew nothing, yet cursed with such passion. I even saw that so-called maniacal shouting photo. I could barely remember which concert it was from. Back then, I had simply been genuinely happy for her. I opened my old social media account. I hadn't logged in for a long time. There were notifications, over 10,000 private messages and comments. I didn't open them. I could guess what they said. I went straight to settings and deleted the account. Clean. After that, I tossed the tablet aside and picked up my guitar. I didn't turn on the speakers, just played it raw. My fingers pressed hard against the strings, producing dull vibrations. My mind was a mess, the headlines, the insults, Willow's panicked face on stage, all tangled together. I struck the strings hard, producing a harsh, dissonant note. Then I started playing. Fast, no melody, just reckless noise. My fingers flew along the fretboard. I strummed until my arm ached. I didn't stop until sweat ran down my back. Then silence returned to the bar. The next evening, not long after opening, that group of young regulars came in again. As soon as they sat down, they started talking loudly, louder than usual. Holy shit, did you see the trending topic? Massive plot twist. What happened? Willow, that thing. She just posted a long statement. I was about to grab their drinks. My hand paused on the refrigerator door. What did she say? Read it. A girl pulled out her phone and started reading. First, I want to apologize to everyone who cares about me for hiding this for so long. The man at the meet and greet was my boyfriend of 5 years, George. The bar went silent. The others stared at her, mouths open. 5 years. Damn. Secret relationship. What else? Keep going. She continued. All previous rumors were arranged by the company. I betrayed his years of support and companionship. I am officially announcing our relationship and will bear all consequences. When she finished, no one spoke for a moment. Then, is this real? She posted it herself. Of course it's real. This is huge. So the guy wasn't a psycho, he was the actual boyfriend. Got cheated on and then cyberbullied. Looks like it. That's brutal. Willow's gutsy though. Straight up defying her company. They erupted into excited discussion. I quietly brought their drinks over without saying anything. Boss, did you see the news? That Willow thing. One of the boys looked at me, grinning. Man, it's so dramatic. Haven't seen it, I said. My voice sounded hoarse even to myself. I turned back to the bar. They kept talking. So where's that guy now? George, right? Who knows? Probably heartbroken as hell. If it were me, I'd lose my mind. I leaned against the back counter and took out my phone. The screen was dark. I didn't open any news apps. I already knew what she said. From their chatter alone, it was clear. She went public. She admitted it. She apologized. I lifted my head and looked at the dim amber light in the bar. The young crowd kept sighing, marveling at the dramatic twist of this entertainment world spectacle. I picked up a clean cloth and slowly wiped a glass. Carefully, inside and out. Not a single fingerprint left behind. The glass shone clear, faintly reflecting my blurred face. I put it back on the shelf, picked up another. Outside, the wind seemed to pick up, brushing against the wooden window frames with a soft rattling sound. Tonight's customers would probably all be talking about the same thing. The world is so damn noisy. Chapter 11. I was looking down at the strings, mind blank, humming a random improvised tune. The wind chime on the door rang. Welcome, I said automatically as I looked up. The word stuck in my throat. Someone stood at the entrance. A long dark coat, hat pulled low, a large mask covering almost her entire face. But that silhouette, that outline I could recognize even if she were wrapped in armor. It was Willow. She stood there, unmoving, silent. Across most of the bar, I could feel her eyes above the mask, locked onto me. There was too much in them. Panic, guilt, longing. My fingers tightened slightly around the guitar neck. The strings pressed into my skin. I don't think my face showed anything. At least I hope it didn't. I looked at her for maybe 1 or 2 seconds. Then I shifted my gaze away, lowered my head, focused back on the strings and continued plucking the same uneven melody, humming softly, as if the person who had just walked in was nothing more than an ordinary stranger who had wandered in out of curiosity. There was another table in the bar, 2 local girls from town. They glanced at the heavily disguised woman by the door, puzzled, then went back to their phones. They didn't recognize her. I kept playing, didn't look at her again, but I could hear her breathing, slight, unsteady. After a few seconds of hesitation, she finally stepped inside. She didn't approach the bar, didn't greet me. She walked straight to the farthest table, the one tucked into the darkest corner near the wall, pulled out a chair, sat down. That spot was barely touched by the warm light, almost entirely swallowed in shadow. She removed her damp hat and placed it on the table. The mask stayed on, her head lowered, hands resting on her knees, fingers twisted together tightly. I ignored her, finished the improvised melody and let the final note fade. The bar fell quieter. Only the low chatter of the 2 girls and the faint sound of rain outside remained. I set the guitar aside and picked up a cloth, slowly wiping down the neck and body, carefully, methodically. I needed something to do, otherwise the silence would crush me. After a while, I heard movement from her table. She seemed to raise a hand slightly, like signaling for service. There was only me. I looked up. The moment our eyes met, she quickly looked away. Her finger pointed nervously at the drink menu on the table. Her voice, muffled behind the mask, came out small. "Be boss. I'd like to order." I set the cloth down and walked over, stopping beside her table at a polite distance. I didn't look at her. My eyes stayed on the tabletop. "What would you like?" She stared at the menu, finger tracing along the lines without focus. For several seconds, she said nothing. "Beer." "Anne," her voice was faint, uncertain. "The house special is homemade rice wine, low alcohol." I said flatly. Okay, then, rice wine. 1 cup. Yes. I turned without another word, back behind the counter. I grabbed a clean ceramic cup, scooped a cloudy ladle of rice wine from the jar beneath the bar, carried it over and placed it gently in front of her. 20, I said. She froze, as if she hadn't expected me to charge her immediately, then hurriedly reached into her small bag, pulled out her wallet, and handed me 100. I took it, went back to make change. The entire exchange passed without a single real glance between us. I returned and placed 80 in cash on the table. Then I walked back to the small stage and picked up my guitar. This time, I didn't improvise. I began singing an old folk song, one hardly anyone knows. It's about someone who leaves their hometown and can never go back. I sang. She sat in the shadows, unmoving. The cup of rice wine in front of her remained untouched. Chapter 12. I finished the old folk song. The final note lingered in the bar before fading away. The 2 girls at the other table clapped. Boss, that was really good. I nodded at them, said nothing, and carefully placed the guitar back on its stand. I could feel it, that gaze from the corner, fixed on my back. I didn't turn around. I went behind the bar, picked up a glass, and began wiping it slowly. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw she was still sitting there. What did she want? Just sit there, wait me out. A few minutes later, she raised her hand again, hesitant, almost timid. I set the glass and cloth down and walked over, stopping 1 step away from her table. What else? My voice was flat. She lifted her head above the mask. Her eyes were bloodshot. Boss, can I request a song? What song? She hesitated. That one, the one you used to hum all the time, the one you wrote yourself, the slow one. She tried to describe it, a faint hope flickering in her eyes, as if I might recognize it and remember something. I knew exactly which song she meant. I wrote it in that damp basement apartment. The melody was raw, immature. Back then, she said it was beautiful. If she couldn't sleep, she'd ask me to hum it for her. That was ancient history. I don't know it. I replied cleanly, leaving no room. The light in her eyes dimmed instantly. Her lips moved under the mask, but no sound came out. Anything else? I asked. If not, I have things to do. I turned to leave. Wait. She blurted it out. Then I'll have another drink. A whiskey. She pointed to the most expensive one on the menu. I glanced at her. She barely drank before, even beer. Just a sip or two. What was this? Trying to get drunk? Which one? There were several listed. Any, the most expensive. I didn't comment. I went back behind the bar, poured a short glass, and brought it over. 180. She took out her wallet again and handed me 200. Keep the change. I placed 20 back on the table anyway and returned to my spot behind the counter. She didn't touch the change. The bar grew quiet again. The 2 girls seemed to sense something strange in the air. They whispered to each other, paid, and left, sneaking one more curious glance at Willow before stepping out. Now it was just the 2 of us. I could hear the faint clink of glass against wood from her table. She was actually drinking the whiskey. I heard a small cough, the sharp burn of liquor hitting her throat, quickly suppressed. I didn't look at her. I stared down at my phone, scrolling aimlessly. There was nothing on it I cared about. Time crawled. Eventually, the old wall clock pointed to 1 a.m. Closing time. I stood up and began cleaning. Gathered glasses from the counter, wiped down surfaces, made enough noise to signal the end. She didn't move. When I finished, I walked to the door and flipped the sign from open to closed. Then I walked back to her table. We're closed. She seemed to snap back to awareness and slowly looked up. At some point, she had pulled her mask down slightly. Her nose and mouth were visible. Her face was pale. George, she said, can we talk? It's late. Miss Lou. I used the most distant form of address I could. I need to rest. Just 5 minutes. No, 3 will do. Her voice trembled with pleading. Her hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Just give me one chance. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I cut her off. My voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. It's in the past. It's not. Her voice rose, breaking. It's not in the past for me. She stood up too quickly and swayed, grabbing the table to steady herself. Do you know how I've been these days? I've been looking for you like I was losing my mind. I went public. I fought the company. I gave everything up. I don't care about any of it. I just wanted to find you and tell you I'm sorry. I gestured vaguely in the air. You said it. Online. Everyone saw it. I received it. She shook her head desperately. That's not the same. I need to say it to your face. She was crying again. George, trust me one more time. Just once. Okay. I promise. From now on I'll listen to you. We can leave this industry. We can leave this place. Go anywhere. I watched her tears fall. Something in me felt tired. These words sounded familiar. Only before. It was me saying, just wait a little longer. Now the roles had reversed. Chapter 13. Miss Lou, I said, my tone firmer this time. You're a public figure now. Be mindful of appearances. It's late. You being alone in a small bar like mine isn't appropriate. Please go back. Calling her Miss Lou was deliberate, a reminder of who she was now. A line drawn. She looked at me. The tears flowed harder, but she bit her lip to keep from sobbing out loud. George, do you really not care about me at all anymore? 5 years. We had 5 years. She reached out as if to grab my hand, but under my cold gaze, she hesitated and pulled back. 5 years. She still had the nerve to bring up 5 years. Something long suppressed flared inside me, but I forced it down. There was no point arguing. I walked to the door and pulled it open. The night wind rushed in, making the light box by the entrance sway slightly. It's late. Go back. Want me to call you a car to the hotel? She didn't move, just stood there, crying silently. I waited. When she still didn't respond, my patience thinned. Suit yourself. Just close the door behind you when you leave. I turned away without another glance and stepped outside, leaving the door half closed behind me. I didn't lock it. She'd have to come out eventually. I didn't go far, just stood beneath the eaves in the shadows and lit a cigarette. The cold wind cleared my head a little. Inside, I listened. At first, nothing. Then, after a while, soft, broken sobbing. It lasted a few minutes, gradually faded. Then I heard footsteps. The door opened from the inside. She stepped out, eyes swollen, tear tracks still visible on her pale face. She seemed surprised to see me standing there smoking. I crushed the cigarette out and tossed it into the nearby trash bin. Can you get back on your own? I asked. She didn't answer, just stared at me with hollow eyes. I pulled out my phone and opened the ride-hailing app. Hotel name. She gave it quietly, the only decent hotel in this small town. I booked the ride. 5 minutes away. We stood under the eaves, a few steps apart. Neither of us spoke. The air felt frozen. The car arrived, headlights cutting through the narrow old town street. I opened the back door. Get in. She looked at me once more, an expression too complicated for me to bother analyzing, then lowered her head and slid into the back seat. I shut the door and told the driver, Batty Hotel. Thanks. The car pulled away, tail lights disappearing down the ancient stone street. I stood there for a moment, then lit another cigarette. I couldn't quite name what I was feeling. A little empty, a little tired, mostly numb. When I finished smoking, I went back inside the bar. There was still a faint trace of her perfume in the air, mixed with the smell of whiskey. I walked over and poured out the unfinished whiskey, along with the untouched cup of rice wine, into the sink, cleaned everything, turned off the lights, went upstairs to sleep. Tomorrow, the sun would rise as usual. Next life would open as usual. As for the rest, whatever. Chapter 14. The next evening, not long after I opened the door, she came again, still wrapped up tight in that same fully covered outfit. Without a word, she walked straight to her old spot and sat down in the darkest corner. This time she didn't wait for me to go over. She raised her hand slightly, her voice not loud but clear. Boss, a whiskey. Same as yesterday. I didn't respond. I turned, poured the drink, and brought it over. Setting the glass down, I quoted the price, $180. She pulled out the money with practiced ease and handed me $200. No need for change, she said. I placed the 20 and change on the table anyway and turned back to the bar. The whole process flowed smoothly, like it had been rehearsed. Good. Saved us both the pointless small talk. A few regulars drifted in, all locals from the town. When they noticed the strange woman in the corner, they exchanged looks but didn't ask questions. People drank, chatted, rolled dice. The atmosphere was lively enough. At one point a regular called out, Boss, sing one, liven things up. I looked up and happened to meet the gaze coming from the corner. She immediately lowered her head, pretending to look at the table. I picked up my guitar and stepped onto the small stage. Without looking her way, I said to the regulars at those tables, All right, I'll do an old one. I sang a pretty high-energy rock song, fast tempo, loud vocals, and brought the bar to life. The regulars clapped along and hummed with me. When I finished, they applauded and cheered. I set the guitar down and, out of habit, glanced toward the corner. She was still sitting there, head lowered, her expression unreadable. For no reason, a wave of irritation rose in me. What was she doing? Playing the devoted ex? I ignored her and went back to tending the other customers. At closing time, history repeated itself. After cleaning up and flipping the sign, I said to her, We're closed, Miss Lou. She stood up. This time she didn't cry, didn't say much. She just looked at me, her eyes fixed and unblinking. George, I just wanted to see you. As long as you're doing okay, I can feel a little more at ease. I didn't reply. She walked slowly to the door, pulled it open, then turned back to look at me once more before stepping out. As usual, I stood outside smoking, waiting for the car she'd called. The night wind was a little cold, raising goosebumps along my arms. The days that followed were the same. She showed up on time every day, ordered the most expensive drink, sat there stiffly all night, and left at closing. She stopped trying to talk to me. She stopped requesting songs. She just sat there, which somehow made me uncomfortable. More irritating was the way she kept coming every single day, like a living reminder swaying in front of my eyes. Memories I thought had long been burned to ashes started surfacing uncontrollably. Not the gut-wrenching scenes, just fragments, little, insignificant things. For example, once, while I was wiping glasses and looking out at the river beyond the window, I suddenly remembered a night many years ago. It had been colder than this. We were broke back then. The place we rented had no heating. In winter it was like an ice cellar. She came back from a recording session, her hands red from the cold, like 2 carrots. The moment she walked in, she shouted, "Honey, honey, warm them up for me." I shoved her hands under my sweater, pressing them against my stomach. She was so cold it made me suck in a sharp breath, but she giggled and said I was her personal human heater. Back then her smile had no impurities. Her eyes curved when she laughed, bright and clear. Another time, when I was adjusting my effects pedal and produced a slightly distorted tone, a scene flashed through my mind. Her first small concert. She'd been so nervous backstage, pacing in circles, clutching my hand. "Honey, what if I mess up? What if they laugh at me?" I'd said. "What are you afraid of? I've got you covered. Even if you turn it into a complete train wreck, it'll still sound like heaven to me." She'd burst out laughing and punched me lightly, calling me ridiculous, but she'd clearly relaxed. Back then, those memories tasted sweet. Now they were like a dull knife sawing into flesh, no blood, just a heavy, muffled ache. Especially when compared to the present, her sitting in that corner like a stranger, like a customer who had to pay to stay here. I told myself to stop thinking about it. It was all fucking in the past. The Willow who used to shove her hands into my sweater, who would laugh out loud at a single joke of mine, that Willow was long gone. The one now was the diva Willow, a superstar who would pretend not to know me in front of her fans. And yet, the place in my chest still felt unbearably tight. That night, she came as usual, ordered her drink as usual, sat down as usual. There weren't many people in the bar. It was quiet. For some reason I couldn't explain. I took out the old acoustic guitar I hadn't touched in a long time. I plugged it into the amp and adjusted the tuning. Then I started playing a melody. Just a few simple chords, a little melancholic. I'd written it a long time ago, never finished it, never even gave it a name. I think it was that time in the basement, when she fell asleep leaning on my shoulder. I had hummed it absent-mindedly back then. I played softly, almost like I was talking to myself. Halfway through, I lifted my eyes instinctively and looked toward the corner. She was staring at me. Her mask had been pulled down. Her face was covered in tears, silently streaming down. It was like she hadn't even realized she was crying. She just looked at me, her gaze distant, as if she were seeing something far beyond me. My fingers stiffened. The melody broke. The bar fell instantly silent. It was as if she had suddenly woken from a trance. She lowered her head abruptly. She wiped her tears away in a fluster with the back of her hand, then pulled her mask back up. I cursed under my breath. Why the hell did I play that? Stupid hands. I set the guitar down, my voice a little hard as I said to the few scattered customers left, "Sorry, everyone. I'm a bit tired today. Closing half an hour early. Drinks are on me." They were surprised, but didn't say much. One by one, they paid up and left. Willow was still sitting there, unmoving. I walked to her table and knocked lightly on the surface. "We're closed." She looked up. Her eyes were still red, but her emotion seemed steadier. "George," she asked, "that song, did you ever finish writing it?" I hadn't expected that question. I froze for a second, then my face went cold. "Don't remember. Just something random." She parted her lips as if to say something, but in the end she only lowered her head and murmured softly, "Oh." She stood up and, as usual, walked toward the door. When she pulled it open, she paused. With her back to me, she said, "That song, it's beautiful. It's always been beautiful." Then she left without turning back. I stood alone in the empty bar, feeling that nameless fire in my chest burn even hotter. What did she mean by that? Was she really reminiscing about the past? To hell with reminiscing. I walked to the sink and splashed my face hard with cold water. She could come sit here if she wanted. That was her choice, but I had to guard my own heart. 5 years was long enough. It was time to turn the page. Chapter 15. After that, Willow kept coming every single day, rain or shine, without fail. That night, she didn't order a drink. Close to closing time, she was the only customer left in the bar. She was carrying a rather delicate insulated bag and walked up to the counter. I was lowering my head, doing the accounts, when I felt her shadow fall over me. I looked up at her. She placed the insulated bag on the counter and pushed it toward me. Her voice was tight, layered with a deliberately forced casualness. "George, I made some food. Your favorite sweet and sour ribs and stir-fried Chinese broccoli. You drink at night all the time. It's bad for your stomach. Eat something first." I looked at her and didn't move. She could cook. Since when? 4 or 5 years. I'd basically been the one cooking. When she was home alone, she either ordered takeout or went out to eat. The only thing she could make was instant noodles, and even then I had to crack the egg in for her. "I've already eaten." I said it and went back to pressing the calculator. The expression on her face stiffened for a second, but she didn't give up. She pushed the bag a little closer to me. Then, just as a late-night snack, I practiced for a long time. It should taste okay. Practiced for a long time. For me. I let out a cold laugh in my heart. On my birthday, when I once asked her to make me a simple bowl of longevity noodles, she'd pouted and said she didn't know how. In the end, we ordered takeout, and now she was trying to win me over. I put down the calculator and looked at her. "Willow, just say it. What exactly are you trying to do? You come to my little bar every day, clocking in like it's your job. You don't drink, you don't talk, you just sit there, and now you're bringing food. You may not be tired, but I'm exhausted just watching you." My bluntness caught her off guard. Her eyes reddened instantly, but she held back the tears. "I'm not trying to do anything," she said. "I just want to see you. I want to treat you better. To make it up to you. Make it up to me," I repeated, finding the phrase almost laughable. "With what? This meal? Or that 180 whiskey you order every night and then pour away at the end?" Her voice choked. "I know it's not enough. Not nearly enough." Her voice began to tremble. "George, I know I hurt you to the core, but I really know I was wrong. For this whole month, I've regretted it every single day. I went public with my relationship, terminated my contract with the company, paid so much in penalties. I don't care about any of that anymore. I just want to beg you to give me one more chance. Just one. Can we start over, please?" I looked at her and asked, word by word, "Start over? How? Pretend nothing ever happened? Go back to that basement 5 years ago? You as the unknown singer who hadn't made it big yet, me as the broke musician?" "I can," she said urgently. "I can give up being a diva. We can leave here and go somewhere no one knows us. Just the two of us, living a simple, ordinary life. I don't want anything else. I just want you." It sounded painfully familiar. Only before, she had said, "Wait until I make it big." Now it was, "I don't want anything anymore." I shook my head. There wasn't even a ripple in my heart. "Willow, stop saying such childish things. Can you really give up your walk of fame? Give up the crowds following you everywhere? And even if you could, I'm tired." I paused, met her eyes, and spoke very seriously. "Thank you for remembering that I love sweet and sour ribs, and thank you for your company during this time. But really, this is where it ends." I picked up the insulated bag and pressed it back into her hands. "Take the food home, eat it yourself, or give it to someone else, and don't come here anymore." Chapter 16. Her tears finally fell, big drops crashing down one after another. "George, are you really this heartless? 5 years together, and you can just throw it away? You won't give me even one chance?" I cut her off. "It's not that I don't want it. It's that you can't afford it anymore, and I can't give it anymore. Trust, once it's shattered, is shattered. You can't glue it back whole. When I see you, I remember the way you looked at me at that fan meet and greet. I remember how people online called me a psycho stalker. Do you really think we can go back to the way things were?" She had no answer. She just cried. Looking at her tears, I wasn't completely unmoved, but whatever feeling was there was quickly buried under something deeper, exhaustion. Dragging this out was meaningless. I turned around, walked behind the bar, unlocked a small drawer, and took out an old USB drive. It had been with me for years. The edges were worn pale. I walked back and placed it on the counter in front of her, pushing it toward her. "Take this." She looked at the drive, then at me. Confusion flickered in her eyes, along with a faint, fragile hope. "What is it?" she asked. "There's some stuff on it," I said calmly. "Things we wrote together back then. Some finished, some only half done, and the full version of that song you never got to hear." Her eyes widened instantly. She stared at me in disbelief. Her hand trembled as she reached toward the USB drive, then hesitated. "It's useless for me to keep it," I continued, my tone steady. "Take it, throw it away, keep it. Or, if you ever get the chance, find a reliable music producer and turn them into real songs. That's up to you. Consider it a keepsake, a way to close out those 5 years." When I said close out, her body swayed slightly. Her face went pale. She understood. This wasn't a gift for reconciliation. It was a farewell, a clean break. "George." She picked up the small, cold USB drive and clenched it in her palm so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her tears flowed even harder. "Do you really have to do this? It's better for both of us," I said. "You go on being your diva. I'll go on running my little bar. No debts, no ties. We walk our separate roads." She looked at me for a long time, as if trying to carve my face into her memory. At last, she lowered her head, gripping the USB drive tightly, her voice barely audible. "Okay, I understand." She didn't say anything more. She didn't take the insulated bag either. She turned and walked toward the door. step by step. Her back was stiff, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I watched as she pulled the door open, stepped outside, and gently closed it behind her. The wind chime rang brightly, then faded into silence. The bar was left with only me, and the lonely insulated bag on the counter, filled with sweet and sour ribs and Chinese broccoli. I took a bite. It was delicious. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and swallowed it down with the ribs, until an entire bottle was gone. I washed the container clean, dried it, and set it by the door. If she remembered tomorrow, she could come back and get it. If not, so be it. I turned off the lights and sat in the darkness. It felt like something inside me had been hollowed out, but more than that, there was relief. The kind that comes when something is finally over. I'd given her the USB drive. The last thread of attachment was severed. This time, it should truly be over. No more ties between us. Chapter 17. Willow left. After that night, she never appeared at Next Life again. For the first 2 days, I wasn't quite used to it. At closing time, I would still instinctively glance toward that empty corner, and only then remember, she wasn't coming back. Good. Peace and quiet. I told myself that. Life returned to its old track. Open in the afternoon. Sing at night. Close after midnight. The regulars occasionally asked about that strange woman. I brushed it off casually. Maybe she went traveling, and they soon forgot about it. About half a month later, on an ordinary night, there weren't many people in the bar, just a few scattered groups. The song request system had recently added a radio program. When no one requested a song, it would play the broadcast. The host was rambling about the new music charts when he said, "Up next, this one's a big deal." After a period of silence, diva Willow has just released a brand new single. It's called Next Life, The Stars We Watched. It debuted straight at #1. Rumor has it the lyrics are tied to a heartbreaking past. My hand, wiping a glass, paused for a second. Next Life, Stars. She really knew how to pick a name. Before I could think further, the intro began. Piano, slow melody, a quiet, indescribable sadness. Then Willow's voice came in. It wasn't the soaring, crystal clear tone she used to have. This time it was slightly hoarse, layered with a restrained, trembling choke. She sang, "I once believed chasing starlight would light the tears within your eyes, but I forgot to turn around, to see the harbor silent at my side. You always waited, dinner warm, a dim lamp glowing through the night, while I kept chasing distant cheers, and pushed away your reaching hand." The lyrics were painfully direct, almost stripped straight from our story. Starlight, Next Life, harbor, torn pages of the past. She wasn't hiding anything. Some customers pricked up their ears. "Hey, this Willow's new song, kinda sad." "Huh?" One regular muttered. "Next Life, same name as our bar." Another chimed in, grinning at me. "Sounds like she got dumped." Even big stars get heartbroken. I didn't respond. I kept wiping my glasses, but the radio's sound drilled straight into my ears. She reached the chorus, her voice lifting, thick with tears. "I'm a drifting ship, you're the silent shore, but when I turned back, your lights burned no more. Next Life stands guard through the endless night, while the stars fall deep into the sea's dark tide. 2 of us left, but never again the way we were before." Later I stood amid 10,000 souls, applause crashing like a tidal roar. Only then I knew the brightest star was the light in your eyes before. You cut the photos, burned half the past, like a faded bracelet string. No matter how tight I tie it now, it won't return to what it had been. She sang it with full emotion, probably shed plenty of tears in the recording booth, paired with her previous public apology. This song was the perfect crisis management and nostalgia marketing package. I could practically imagine her fans, how they'd ache for her, praise her rebirth, applaud her sincerity, just when I thought the song was about to end. It continued. She sang, "You said wait a little longer, till our dreams could take their root, but I waited till I faded into a stranger in your truth. Now I sing this song alone, in an empty bar till dawn. Only then I learned the loudest cheers, our memories rewinding on. Next Life no longer watches, the stars learn how to shine alone. We've become the nearest distance, the farthest we've ever known. If one day you hear this, my confession, late but true, it's me in the deepest ocean, anchoring one last time to you." The song ended. The radio host sighed dramatically. "That really hits the heart." They say this song was inspired by Willow's 5-year relationship that ended without closure. Seems she loved deeply. The customers started chatting. "So that guy's the Next Life in the song. Sounds like she screwed him over. Now she regrets it. Bit late. Huh. But the song's really good. Kinda painful to listen to." "Boss, your bar's name, does it have something to do with this song?" someone asked half-jokingly, but in my ears, only the final lines kept echoing. Those were the lyrics I had completed on that USB drive. I hadn't expected her to put them in this song. Chapter 18. I set the glass down, walked over to the song console, reached out, and switched to another radio channel. The bar was instantly left with nothing but the murmur of customers talking. Too noisy, I said lightly, then went back to wiping glasses. The customers froze for a second, exchanged looks, and didn't press further. Soon they moved on to other topics. In the days that followed, the song exploded in popularity just as expected. You could hear it everywhere: shopping malls, other people's cars, even the speakers from the shop next door. The younger customers who came into the bar would bring it up in conversation from time to time. Willow's Next Life is insane. It really hits the heart. I treated it all as background noise. Once, 2 young girls were playing the song out loud from their phone in the bar, even humming along. I walked over and tapped lightly on their table. My voice wasn't loud, but it was cold. Sorry, no external music allowed in here. They jumped, hurried to turn it off, and apologized repeatedly. It wasn't that I had something against the song. I just couldn't stand the endless reminders. What was Willow trying to tell me with that song? That she regretted it, that she was in pain. For me, it was all too late. No matter how well written the lyrics were, no matter how moving her voice sounded, it didn't change anything. Like the line said, we can never go back to what we were. Then stop bringing it up. That night, business was average. I sat behind the bar, bored, flipping through TV channels with the remote. On one of the music channels, the MV for Next Life, the stars we watched, was playing. On screen, Willow wore a white dress, standing somewhere that looked like the seaside. Her expression was sorrowful, tears falling in the wind. Her acting had improved, I had to admit. I was just about to change the channel when a voice spoke beside me. Boss, can you take song requests here? I looked up. A new face, a girl in her early 20s, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. Her hair was tied into a ponytail, clean and fresh looking. She pointed to the wooden sign behind me that read, "Song requests available, free if the boss is in a good mood." I smiled. Yeah. I set down the remote. What do you want? She smiled back, her eyes curving as she said, "Can I request something happy? Anything, just something that makes people feel better." I paused. Most people who came here requested love songs or folk ballads. Hardly anyone so directly asked for something cheerful. Why something happy? I asked casually. She shrugged. Just broke up. Sad songs make it worse. Figured I'd try changing the mood. She said it openly, even with a faint self-mocking smile. I looked at her for 2 seconds, then nodded. All right. I picked up the guitar, thought for a moment, and started playing a light-hearted country folk tune with a bright rhythm. I didn't sing it with too much intensity, but I made sure my voice sounded relaxed. The girl sat on a high stool at the bar, chin resting on her hand, listening quietly. At some of the humorous lyrics, she smiled. When the song ended, she clapped. That was really good. Thanks, boss. She did look a little better. You're welcome, I said. She paid for her drink, stayed a little longer, then left. I watched her back as she walked out the door. I didn't feel anything special, but at least tonight, my ears were quiet. No Next Life, the stars we watched. Chapter 19. Willow's song was wildly popular for a while, then gradually faded. Once the novelty wore off, people moved on. No one kept talking about Next Life and the stars every day anymore. Good. My ears were finally at peace. My life completely returned to its proper track. Business at Next Life was steady, not booming, but more than enough to keep things running. There were more and more regulars. Some had even become friends. They didn't need to order anymore. I already knew what they drank. At night, I played guitar and sang. If I was in a good mood, I'd sing a few extra songs. If I was tired, I'd close early. Life flowed like the river in this old town, calm, steady, without much turbulence. The girl who had requested a happy song actually kept coming back. Her name was Anna. She was a student at the Academy of Fine Arts, spending her break here sketching landscapes. Her personality was completely different from Willow's. A bit carefree, talkative, always smiling. Every time she came, she sat at the bar. Her drinks changed constantly. She claimed she wanted to try every variety I had. Boss, what do you recommend today? Nothing bitter. She would lean against the bar, eyes bright as she asked. House-brewed plum wine. Sweet. I'd hand her a small sample. She'd take a sip, squint in satisfaction. This is good. I'll have this. Then she'd start drawing, sometimes in a sketchbook, sometimes with a full drawing board propped up. She chatted while she worked. Mostly she talked, and I listened. Boss, you play guitar really well. Used to be in music. Yeah. I'd nod. Dabbled. Why stop? Why open a bar? Got tired. A bar's nice too. Peaceful. She never dug deeper. She just went on about her school life, complaining about professors, telling stories about her field trips. Unlike other customers, she didn't ask out of curiosity or pity about my past. She simply shared her own life. That kind of unguarded energy made things lighter. Sometimes she'd point at my guitar. Boss, can I request a song? Something happy. I'd play those old upbeat tunes. She'd tap her foot along to the rhythm. her pencil strokes growing lighter and quicker. If she hadn't finished drawing by closing time, she'd stay a little longer. I didn't rush her. I just cleaned up. Occasionally she'd look up and ask, "Boss, what do you think of this one?" I'd glance at the lines and blocks of color, didn't understand much, and say honestly, "Not bad." She'd grin and keep drawing. After a while, bits of gossip from around town reached my ears. They said the bar owner had picked up an art school girl. I didn't care. Anna cared even less. Once we were familiar, she even dared to boss me around. "Boss, move that lamp over there. The lighting's wrong." That night, a few unfamiliar faces came in, probably from the neighboring town. They drank too much and were loud enough to make other customers frown. I went over and reminded them once. They quieted down for a while, then slipped back into their old ways. One of them, face flushed, staggered over to Anna and stared at her drawing board. "Hey, little sister, what are you drawing? Let me see." Anna frowned and shifted the board aside. "Sorry, not convenient." The guy didn't back off. He reached out as if to grab it. "Oh, got some attitude." I put down the glass in my hand, stepped out from behind the bar, and stood between him and Anna. My voice wasn't loud, but it was cold. "Gentlemen, you've had enough. Time to settle the bill." The men glared at me. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm not done drinking. I'm the owner," I said, looking at him evenly. "We don't welcome trouble here. Drinks are on me. Please leave." The others gathered around, their tone unfriendly. "What's this? Kicking out paying customers?" Anna stood up nervously and tugged lightly at my sleeve. "Boss, forget it," she whispered. I didn't move. I just looked at them. The air grew tense. At that moment, Tony, the town's electrician and a regular, stood up with two of his friends. Tony was tall and broad-shouldered. He walked over and clapped the drunk on the shoulder with a grin. "Brother, if you've had your fill, head back. Don't bother the young lady drawing. The boss here's a good guy. Show some respect." The troublemakers glanced at Tony, then at me. Maybe they realized they wouldn't gain anything. They muttered a few curses under their breath, but they still went to settle the bill. I didn't stop them. Not a cent less than owed. Then they left. After they were gone, Anna let out a breath. "Thanks, boss." I nodded. "It's fine." Then I turned to Tony and the others. "Appreciate it. Drinks are on me tonight." Tony waved it off. "No need. We're neighbors." And just like that, the small disturbance passed. Chapter 20. After closing, Anna helped me clear the tables. As she worked, she said, "Didn't expect you to be that tough, boss." I didn't respond. I flipped the chairs upside down onto the tables. She looked at my profile and suddenly asked, "Boss, did you go through a lot before?" My movements paused for a second. Then I continued stacking the chairs. "Who doesn't have a past?" I said. "True." She smiled and didn't press further. When we were done, she slung her drawing board over her shoulder. "All right, boss. See you tomorrow." "Yeah, be careful on the way." After she left, I locked the door and sat alone in the empty bar. What happened tonight reminded me of some older memories. Not about Willow. Further back, singing in other venues, running into drunk troublemakers. Back then, the whole band would step in together. Sometimes it ended with punches thrown, faces bruised and swollen. Now, having people step in calmly to back me up and settle things peacefully, it didn't feel bad. Days passed, one after another. Anna's break was almost over. She said she had to go back to school. On her last night before leaving, she came as usual. No drawing this time. She just sat at the bar and drank. "Boss, I'm leaving tomorrow," she said. She added. "Thanks for this whole time." "For what?" I asked. She grinned. "For letting me freeload on your lighting and live model." She was joking, but her eyes were sincere. "And for your songs." "You're welcome," I said. She was quiet for a moment, staring at the glass in her hand. "Boss, I think you're someone with stories," she said. "But if you don't talk about them, I won't ask." Still, she looked up at me. "People have to look forward, right? Your bar's great. Your songs are great. It'll only get better from here." I looked at her, young, vibrant, full of life, and nodded. "Yeah." She smiled, finished her drink in one gulp, and set the glass down. "All right, I'm off. If I ever come back to this town, I'm drinking here again." "Deal." She walked to the door, waved at me, and stepped out. The wind chime rang brightly for a moment. I watched the door sway gently before it settled still. Willow came, then she left. Anna came, then she left, and I remained here, in this little bar called Next Life, opening and closing each day, playing guitar, singing songs, but somehow, quietly, something had changed. Maybe the past really could stay in the past. Chapter 21. About half a year passed. One afternoon, the weather was nice. I was moving a few tables outside into the sunlight to scrub them clean. The auntie who ran the tea house next door wandered over, holding a smartphone in her hand. "Boss Wong, look. Isn't this the big star my daughter likes?" She shoved the screen right in front of my face, her voice loud as ever. I nodded. "Yeah, that's Willow," she said. Then I'd better take a good look. Next time I can chat with my daughter about her. I glanced at the screen. It was a glamorous award ceremony. Willow was wearing a floor-length gown, holding a crystal-like trophy, speaking into a microphone. At the bottom of the screen, subtitles read, "Willow wins Best Female Singer again with Next Life, the stars we watched. Thanks fans for their unwavering support." I went back to moving tables. I honestly didn't feel much. It was like seeing news about a stranger. Oh, I see. Then you forget it. How glamorous her life was now. How many awards she'd won. None of it had anything to do with me. My life was this rag in my hand and the wooden tables in front of me that needed wiping. That night, the bar was lively. Tony came with a few friends, shouting for me to sing something to boost the mood. I was in a decent mood, so I went up and played an old-school rock song. The atmosphere picked up quickly. Halfway through the song, I caught movement at the door from the corner of my eye. The wind chime rang. Someone came in. I didn't pay much attention and kept singing. When the song ended and I set the guitar down, I finally saw her. Anna was standing at the entrance, carrying a huge drawing board bag on her back. She looked travel-worn, but her eyes were bright. A smile on her face as she looked at me. The customers were clapping and cheering. No one noticed her. I walked over. "On break?" "Yep." She nodded hard, setting her bag down by her feet. "Got off the long-distance bus and came straight here." "Boss, plum wine please, I'm dying of thirst." I poured her a glass. She gulped down half of it in one go and let out a long breath. "It's still the most comfortable here." "How's school?" I asked casually. "The usual. Endless assignments." She pouted, then brightened again. "But I won a small award in the department competition this time." There was a trace of pride in her voice. "Not bad," I said. She launched into another stream of chatter, about her paintings, her classmates, her professors. I wiped glasses while listening, occasionally humming in acknowledgement. After talking for a while, she suddenly stopped and looked at me. "Boss, am I too noisy? You don't find me annoying, do you?" I looked up at her. "I'm used to it." She froze for a second, then burst out laughing. "Good, if you're used to it, then I'll keep bothering you." After that, Anna slipped right back into her vacation routine, showing up often. Sometimes she painted, sometimes she just sat there chatting with me, or listening in on other customers' conversations. She seemed curious about everything, always able to find something to talk about. The regulars got used to her too. They started calling her Little Artist. She wasn't shy at all. She could strike up a conversation with anyone. One night after closing, while helping me clean up, she suddenly said, "Boss, let me paint your portrait." I was sweeping the floor and didn't even look up. "Why would you paint me?" "For practice. Your face has stories. Perfect model material." She sounded completely confident. "No time." I refused. She persisted. "I'll only take a tiny bit of your time. When the bar's open, you just sit behind the counter and do your thing. I'll sketch quietly. I promise I won't bother you." She pressed her palms together in mock pleading. I didn't feel like arguing. "Suit yourself." Over the next few days, she really did find a corner, sketchbook in hand, chatting nonsense while secretly drawing me. I ignored her, wiped glasses when I needed to, did the accounts when I had to. After several days, she finally presented the sketchbook to me like a prized treasure. "Here, tell me if it looks like you." I took it and glanced down. Charcoal on paper, simple lines. But she'd captured the angle of my profile while I was looking down, wiping glasses, the expression, too, a bit distant, but not entirely unapproachable. "Not bad," I said, handing it back. "Just a not bad," she protested, snatching it away. "I think it's amazing. Especially the eyes." I really got that world-weary, seen-it-all vibe. Her choice of words almost made me laugh, but I held it in. I waved her off. "Pack up, we're closing." Okay, she said cheerfully, tucking the sketchbook away. Time kept moving like that. Willow's name still surfaced occasionally, from TV, the internet, or customers' casual chatter. She released another new song, changed her style, appeared on some variety show. There were rumors about a new relationship. Every time I heard it, I felt nothing. She lived under her spotlight. I guarded my small corner of the world. One day, while sketching, Anna asked, "Boss, are you just going to keep running this bar forever? Ever think about doing something else, like forming a band again?" I shook my head. "This is good enough." She nodded. "Yeah, it's steady." Then she added, "But if you ever want more people to hear you sing, tell me. I know some indie music folks. I could introduce you." "Thanks, not for now," I replied. She didn't push. Instead, she switched topics. "Boss, got anything tomorrow morning? There's a new breakfast shop at the town entrance. I heard their tofu pudding is super soft. Want to try it together?" I thought about it. I didn't have plans. "Sure, deal. I'll come get you tomorrow," she said brightly. Watching her energetic expression, I suddenly felt that this, right now, was good. Let the past stay where it belongs. Scars, once they've healed, stop hurting. They just become part of you. There's no need to keep peeling them open. Willow has her life, I have mine. Separate paths, separate peace. That's enough.